In the previous lesson, we have given a definition for the word group, and we have given some examples, and we have given some elementary properties that a group will satisfy. In the list of examples, we have seen some groups which are contained in a larger group. These smaller groups are called subgroups. Before we formally define what we mean by a subgroup, let me first introduce this multiplicative notation in group theory. In group theory, by default, we use or we adopt the so-called multiplicative notation when the operation is not stated. So when we say that let G be a group, it doesn't mean that we are removing the operation from the group, because a group should always be paired with a binary operation. However, sometimes in order to save time, we simply refer to the group as the group G, or the set, or we identify the group in terms of the set. So, if A and B are elements of the group, we simply write AB to denote the product of A and B with respect to whichever operation there is or associated to G. The identity element of the group is usually denoted by E, or some authors prefer to use the symbol 1 for the identity element. And lastly, if A is an element of G, the inverse of A is denoted by A to the minus 1, or A inverse. We shall read this as A inverse. Take note, however, that there are some groups which are additive in nature. In that sense, we shall remain to use the additive notation. By that I mean, if the operation is plus, we shall write the product or sum, or the result when you combine A and B under addition as A plus B instead of AB, and so on. So in this definition, as you can see, I am using the multiplicative notation. Okay, so let G be a group and H be a subset of G. So H is a set inside the set G. We can say that this subset forms a subgroup of G, expressed in this manner if the following conditions hold. So there are three conditions to be satisfied in order for us to say that H is a subgroup. Number 1, the identity element in G, namely A, must be the first element to be in H. Now remember, our goal is to find a subset which forms a group itself under the same operation of E. So in order to do that, the first thing, or the first element to be in the subset should be the identity element in G. Second, we must require that the subset is closed under the operation. In other words, the operation of G, this means that the operation of G behaves well inside H, because if you get two elements in H, let us draw some Venn diagram over here. Let's say this is the group G, and let's say this is the subset H. It may happen that A and B are elements of H, but generally, as elements of G, the product AB might be outside the set H, and this is not a good situation. What we want for H to be a subgroup is that the product AB should still be inside H. Lastly, we want closure for inverses. What do I mean by that? So, normally, if you take an element A of H, because it's an element of G as well, then basically it has an inverse. But we are not always guaranteed that its inverse is still in H. Definitely it's still in G, but maybe the inverse may be found outside G. So in order for H to be a subgroup, we further require that the inverse of A be found in H as well whenever A is in H. So these properties make H a subgroup of G. Take note that in this notation, we don't read it as H is less than or equal to G because they are not numbers. In this context, we say H is a subgroup of G. Take note that if H is a subgroup of G, then H is a group itself under the implied or the induced operation in G. Why? First of all, because H is just a subset of G and we are basically borrowing the operation of G. G is a group, so therefore that operation is already associative. So there's no need for you to check for that. Secondly, the identity element of G, which is E, will act as the identity element of the group H because basically all of H are also in G. Last but not the least, the closure for the product and inverses will guarantee that every element of H will have inverses, and these inverses furthermore can be found inside H. That's why if these three conditions are satisfied, then the set H will be a group itself. Now, as trivial examples, if G is a group, then of course, by definition, G will be a subgroup of itself. Okay, because these three conditions will be satisfied if we replace H by G. In fact, G is the largest subgroup in G. So, if G is the largest subgroup in G, there is in fact a smallest subgroup in G. What is that? So, the set containing only the identity element will be the smallest subgroup in G. Why is that a subgroup anyway? First of all, E is here. Second, this set is closed under the multiplication. Why? Because if E, the only element in this set is E, so the only multiplication possible is E times E. But we know that E times E is equal to E. It's still in the set. Third, we know that the inverse of the identity element is itself. That's why this set is still closed under inverses. So as we can see, a subset cannot be empty because the identity element is always in it. So let us consider some example. Under the normal addition, is the set of integers a subgroup of the set of real numbers? Well, there are three things we need to know. First, is the zero real number an integer? Yes. Second, if two numbers A and B are integers, are we guaranteed that A plus B is an integer? Yes, because the sum of two integers is an integer, then axiom H2 is satisfied. Last but not the least, if A is a real number which is an integer, now the inverse under addition, or in this context or in this group, is the negative, right? So is the negative of an integer another integer? Yes, and because these three conditions are satisfied, we can conclude that the set Z of integers is a subgroup of the set R of real numbers, of course under addition. Let's consider another one. On the other hand, let's consider the set S containing the non-negative integers, which are 0, 1, 2, and so on. Is this set a subgroup of R under addition? What do you think? Now, in order to know, we have to ask if the axioms h1 to h3 are satisfied. Take note that if one of these axioms is already not satisfied, then already we can conclude that the set is not a subgroup. First of all, is the identity element 0 of R an element of S? Well, basically, yes. Second, if I get two elements in S, is there another element of S? Because this set contains non-negative integers, we know that the sum of two non-negative integers is another non-negative integer, then maybe, we can confirm that this axiom is satisfied, or the closure axiom. Last but not the least, if I have an element of S, is its negative another element of S? Well, for that, for example, for 0, the negative of 0 is 0. So fine, it's in S. However, when you look at the element 1, we see that 1 is an element of S, but its negative or additive inverse is not an element of S. Therefore, axiom H3 is not satisfied. So even though H1 and H2 are satisfied, but H3 is not, we cannot say that S is a subgroup of R. So as a conclusion, S under addition is not a subgroup of R under addition. Let us now consider this example. For each natural number n, let us denote by the set nz the set of all the numbers of the form nk, where k is an integer. So for example, if n is 2, this set consists of all integers of the form 2k, where k is an integer, or the even integers. Basically, the elements of nz are the multiples of n. Let us now show that this set, or this subset of z, is a subgroup of z, but take note, the operation is not mentioned here. So when I write z, by default, its operation, or the implied operation, will be addition, because anyway, it's not a group under multiplication, remember? So what do we do in order to prove that nz is a subgroup of z? So we do 3 steps. First, let's check for axiom h1. Okay, so what is axiom h1? We check for the identity. Now take note that the identity element of z under addition is 0. So we verify if 0 is an element of nz. The elements of nz again are the multiples of n. So the question is 0 a multiple of n? Yes, because 0 can be written as n times 0, right? Therefore, we can say that 0 is in nz. So axiom h1 is satisfied. Now, normally when we write proofs, we write in paragraphs. But here, just to emphasize that I am checking conditions h1, h2, and h3, I'm listing it like this. So for axiom h2, we have to verify closure for addition in nz. So what we do now is we will take two elements of nz. So let us say x and y. So let's take two elements x and y of nz. Because x and y are in nz and the elements of nz are of this form, then we can say as a conclusion that we can write x as nk1. May subscript ako na 1 kasi may isa pa akong element. And y as nk2, si n ang fixed dito, si k yung nag-iiba-iba. where, let's say, k1 and k2 are integers. So what I want to know if their sum is still in NZ. So therefore, let's add. If we add x plus y, you get nk1 plus nk2. Now, we can factor n because it's a common factor and have this. As you can see, k1 and k2 are integers. Therefore, their sum is also an integer. So let's say that's k. So as you can see, the sum is still in NZ. Let me just write here for emphasis that k is k1 plus k2, and that is certainly an integer. Okay, so therefore we have verified, or we have proven, that the sum of two elements in NZ is also an element of NZ. Last but not the least, we check for inverses. I mean inverses of elements in NZ. Now take note that inverses in this group mean the additive inverse because this group is additive in nature. So let's take an arbitrary x in NZ. Again, we may write x as n times k for some k in Z. There's no need to use k1 or k2 here because we only have one element to consider. In our mind, we wanted to show that the negative of x is still in NZ. So we compute for what? Minus x. That's minus nk. But we know from algebra that this is just n times minus k. Or this can be written as nl, where L is just minus k and this is another integer. Therefore, we can say that minus x is in NZ. Now, because axioms h1, h2, and h3 are satisfied, we can now conclude that NZ is a subgroup of Z. So this is how we prove that a set is a subgroup of a given group. I have a question here. So, for example, 2Z, 3Z, 4Z are all subgroups. For example, I can say that 2Z, the elements of 2Z are actually 0, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 4. These are the multiples of 2, right? How about 4Z? The elements of 4Z are 0, plus minus 4, plus minus 8, plus minus 12, and so on. As you can see, these are all subgroups of Z. So basically, all of these examples are groups, or these two examples are groups. But as you can see over here, 4Z is actually included inside 2Z, and because they are both groups, we can say that 4Z is a subgroup of 2Z. However, if I take 3Z on the other hand, 0 plus minus 3 plus minus 6 and so on, obviously 3Z is not a subgroup of 2Z because 3 is in 3Z but 3 is not in 2Z. So the question is, when can we say that MZ in general is inside or a subgroup of NZ? So what is the answer to that question? So actually, the answer to this question is, it should be the case that N must divide M, or M must be divisible by N, because if M is divisible by N, then all the multiples of M will also be multiples of N. So that's the logic. Or I want you to verify this. because I want you to remember this fact, because this fact is frequently used in this course. Let us consider another example. Let us consider the group Z sub 6, in this case additive group ulit siya. So the elements of Z sub 6 are as follows. What are the elements of Z sub 6? These are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And addition, or the operation is in this group, is addition modulo 6. Let us determine which of the following subset or subsets is or are subgroups of G. Number 1. Let's consider the subset H, which has 0, 2, and 4 in it. How do we know if H is a subgroup? By checking H1, H2, and H3. Now, as you can see, in this case, because these sets are only finite, we could just, or one of the techniques is that we could just consider constructing its Cayley table, because the Cayley table contains all the information that we need in the group. So, let me construct a table for H using addition modulo 6. Okay, 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 is the identity element, so kakopy lang. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6, but modulo 6, that's 0. 0 ito, at ito ay 2 by Sudoku property. You don't need to do the operations. Well, if you want to verify, what's 4 plus 4? 4 plus 4 is 8. Modulo 6 is 2. Question. Is the identity element of Z6 an element of H? Yes. In fact, it's the 0, right? Is this closed under addition? As you can see in this table, all the possible additions are already made. If we input 0, 2, and 4, or if we choose from 0, 2, and 4 as inputs, as you can see, the possible sums are 0, 2, and 4 also. Hindi ka magkakaroon ng sum na 3 or magkakaroon ng sum na 5. No, it will not happen. So basically, closed siya under addition. How about for inverses? Ano bang inverse ng 0? Inverse ng 0 ay 0. Inverse ng 2, anong i-add mo sa kanya para maging 0? 4. Ang negative ng 2 ay 4. Therefore, ang negative ng 4 ay 2. Okay? So, as you can see in this example, H is a subgroup of G. How about S? Obviously, S is not a subgroup of... No, it's not G. It's Z6. Obviously, S is not a subgroup of Z6. Why? Kasi yung H1 pa lang violated na, no? Bakit? Kasi yung 0 is not an element of S. Ang unang-unang dapat nandoon sa subgroup ay yung identity element ng group, which is 0 in this case. How about T, which contains 0, 2, and 5? Is this a subgroup of Z6? Well, as you can see, the identity element is 0 and it is inside T, so H1 is satisfied. Is this closed under addition? Well, just like what I have said, one way to prove closure is to complete the table for 0, 2, and 5. But if you can find one counterexample right away, then it's not necessary to construct the table. For example, if we consider the addition 2 plus 5, no? What's 2 plus 5? Modulo 6. 2 plus 5 is 7. Modulo 6 is 1. As you can see, 2 is in T, 5 is in T, but 2 plus 5, which is 1, is not an element of T. Therefore, the axiom or the axiom that is not satisfied is closure for addition. Therefore, T as well is not a subgroup of Z sub 6. Okay? So as you can see, There are basically 3 steps in order to prove that a subset is a subgroup. In fact, these 3 steps can be done in only one step, provided that you know that the subset is non-empty. So let's say you have a candidate subset H and you know that it is non-empty. Sometimes there will be cases where the existence of elements in H is not trivial, so you have to first verify that it's non-empty by giving an example of an element. So if you know that H is a non-empty subset of G, then you can prove or you can imply that H is a subgroup of G by doing this test. This is what we call as the one-step subgroup test. What is the test? We have to ensure that for every 2 elements A and B that you will get from H, you should be able to prove that AB inverse is another element of H. In the context of addition, AB inverse means A plus the additive inverse of B, because by default we are using the multiplicative notation. So if ever you have operations which are additive in nature, you have to adjust. Okay, how do we prove this? Now this statement is an if and only if statement. So there are 2 parts of the proof. So in this direction, we are assuming that H is a subgroup of G. What do we want to show? We wanted to show that for all AB in H, AB inverse must be an element of H. In order to prove this, papalitan nyo for all ng let. Let A and B be an element of H. Dapat itong condition na to ay mapakita nyo. Okay? Since H is a subgroup of G, we can assume statements H1, H2, and H3. And B is an element of H by axiom H3. B inverse must be in H. Also, A is in H by default. Therefore, by H2, if A is in H and B inverse is in H, A is in H and B inverse is in H, then by H2, their product AB inverse is also an element of H. So we are done. That's what we need to show. So the actual challenge here is the proof of sufficiency, that this condition is sufficient to prove that H is a subgroup of G. So here, assume that for all A and B in H, the product AB inverse is in H. Now take note here that in this context, A and B are actually variables. Okay, variables. You can replace A and B by anything because it's quantified. They are quantified variables. Okay, so what we wanted to show here is that H must be a subgroup of G. In order to prove that H is a subgroup of G, then we have to prove that H1, H2, and H3 are satisfied. So, what do you think? How can we show that? First, let us show that the identity element of G is an element of H. How do we do that? So we begin with the fact. That's why this condition is important. Okay, we use the fact that H is non-empty. Since H is non-empty, H has an element, say little h. Okay, say little h is an element of H. Correct? Since H is in H. Also, H is in H. Oh, what am I doing? Well, what I'm doing here is this. It's like, let me erase. I'm using H. I'm using H in place of A, and I'm using H in place of B. So it's like I'm saying set A and B to H. Then by hypothesis, ano sasabihin ng hypothesis natin? Hypothesis natin is this. This is our hypothesis. Right? This is our hypothesis. By the hypothesis, what is that? Our hypothesis? AB inverse will be HH inverse. What do we know about HH inverse? Is E must be an element of H. So we have proven that the identity E is an element of H by using this trick. Okay? Proving H1. Okay? Next, we are supposed to prove H2. But a quite easier way is to prove H3 first. Wala naman sinabing order talaga. Order doesn't matter. Is to prove that H3 holds, and then papakita ko mag-hold yung H2 kapag nag-hold si H3. Okay? Okay. So now, let me now take an arbitrary element H in H, because I am now sure that H is not empty, right? I'm sure that H is not empty. I need to show that the inverse of H is another element of capital H. How do I do that? To do this, I simply set A to E and set B to H. Because if I do this, if I calculate AB inverse according to the hypothesis, this is in H, right? But let me put it here so we have more spaces. So AB inverse is in H. No, I think I'd rather put this here. Okay. But if A is E and B is in H, B is H, this is EH inverse. As you can see, this is H inverse. So this proves that H inverse is again an element of H if H is an element of H. So this proves proving H3. Last but not the least, we have to prove that H2 holds. So how do we do that? So we now take H and K be elements of big H. We have to show that HK is what? Another element of H. In order to do that, using the box property, we have to, well, paano ba gagawin ito? So let's see. What I wanted to do here, because kaya ako nga ginawa yung H3 first because I want to use it. Okay? By H3, which we have already proven, I know that K inverse is in H because if K is in, we know that H is already closed under inverses. So whenever K is in H, I already know that K inverse is an element of H. So what I do, I set A to H and B to K inverse. Then, similarly, I know by the box property that AB inverse is in H. But what is AB inverse? AB inverse in this context is H K inverse inverse. But what is H K inverse inverse? That's HK. And this proves H2. So as a conclusion, so let me just write the conclusion here. H is a subgroup of G. And that completes the proof. This is what I'm telling you a while ago. If G happened to be an additive group, then the condition will be quite different. It uses the additive notation, A plus minus B. Parang sa normal na algebra, ito yung A minus B. Ito kasing A divided A o AB inverse, parang ito yung A divided by B when you were younger, right? Okay. Consider the set H consisting of all the integer powers of 2. So what are the integer powers of 2? We have 2 to the 0, 2 to the 1, 2 to the minus 1, 2 squared, 2 to the minus 2, and so on. As you can see, when you evaluate this one by one, you will get 1, 2, 1 half, 4, 1 fourth, 8, 1 8, and so on. So this is our set. Let us show, using the one-step subgroup test, that H is a subgroup of the group R star. Ano nga ulit R star? R star is just a set of real numbers where 0 is removed. And when 0 is removed, the reason is because the operation that we are considering is multiplication. So this is a multiplicative group. So first of all, note that H is non-empty. This is clear. Since first of all, yung 1 ay nasa H. Because this is 2 to the 0. Okay? Diba? Siya yung 2 to the 0 kasi. So nasa H siya by default. So therefore, H is not empty. So we can now apply the one-step subgroup test. To do this, we will take arbitrary elements. Let's say A and B pala yung nasa test. So let's use A and B instead. Now, because the elements of H are powers of 2, integer powers of 2, then I know that I can write A as a power of 2. Let's say 2 to the K, and B as 2 to the L for some integers K and L. Then what I wanted to do, I wanted to compute AB inverse because I wanted to show that AB inverse is another element of H. If I compute this, you get this. Algebra. This becomes 2 to the minus L. The of exponents. We get this. So what we see here is another power of 2. So therefore, I can now say that AB inverse is another element of H. So therefore, we can now conclude that H is a subgroup of G. Now, if you would ask me personally, I will always choose the 3 steps instead of the 1 step because, as you can tell here, we were able to prove that H is a subgroup, but it feels like I'm not really convinced. But of course, this is true because we have proven this a while ago. But for me personally, I'd rather use the 3 steps all the time. Well, it's just a personal preference. Okay, our first theorem for this lecture is this. Thesis states that if you have an arbitrary collection of subgroups of a group, you take their intersection, the intersection is still a subgroup. So in English, intersection of subgroups remain to be a subgroup. How do we prove this? Well, we can use the one-step subgroup test if you want. So first of all, let's show that, now, before we prove, what do you mean by this notation? This notation means, this collection HI is indexed by big I. So kung ilang elements meron yung I, ganun karaming subgroups ang meron sa collection na ito. It doesn't matter kung ilan. Okay? The intersection consists of all X so that X is in HI for all I. Yun yung pinagkaiba kapag union. Kapag union ito for some instead of for all. Okay? So how do we show that this is a subgroup? First, I want to show that this is non-empty. the first element that has to be there, of course, is the identity of G. So why is the identity element of G here? Now the idea is, since Hi, we know that Hi is a subgroup of G for all I, then by default E must be an element of Hi that must hold for all I. And because this holds for all I, we can already tell that E is in the intersection. Therefore, the intersection is not empty. Okay. Next, we will take arbitrary elements A and B in the intersection. In our minds, what we wanted to arrive at, we wanted to show that the product AB inverse is in the intersection. Okay, so how do we do this? First of all, since A and B are elements of the intersection, by definition of intersection, A and B must be elements of Hi, and that must hold for all I in capital I. Again, since Hi is a subgroup of G for any I, then by the one-step subgroup test, I'm sure that AB inverse is in Hi, and that holds for all I. As a conclusion, AB inverse is in the intersection. We're done. Again, by OSST or one-step subgroup test, the intersection has to be a subgroup of G. Finished. So let's consider this example. Well, we know that 4Z and 6Z are subgroups of Z, right? These are the multiples of 4 and the group of multiples of 6 under addition. Let's determine the intersection, because we know that this intersection will be another subgroup, so that's interesting. So what do you think is the intersection? If we try to list them down, well, 4Z, okay, has 0 plus or minus 4 plus or minus 8 plus or minus 12 and so on, 16, while 6Z has 0 plus or minus 6 plus or minus 12 plus or minus 18 plus or minus 24 and so on. So therefore, for Z intersection 6Z has this. Pag intersection, kinukuha natin yung what's common. So 0 and 0 are here, so we'll bring down 0. What is common? As you can tell, this one and this one are common, so plus or minus 12. What's the next one? Yes, you're correct, because what's next here is plus minus 20, then plus minus 24. Ang kasunod nyan, plus minus 24. What's next? You are correct. This is plus or minus 36 and so on. So as you can see, what remains in the intersection are basically the integer multiples of 12. Therefore, this is the subgroup 12C. In general, that will always be the case. So the intersection of MZ and NZ is LZ if and only if ano yung relationship ng L, M at N. You can pause if you want to think about it. So, what's the answer? You were correct. The answer is that L is the LCM of M and N. That's why yung intersection ng 4Z at 6Z ay 12Z because ang LCM ng 4 at 6 ay 12. As you can see, yung ginagawa natin kanina yung ginagawa natin when we try to calculate for LCM. Okay? Question. How about the union of 4Z and 6Z? Is that a subgroup of Z? What do you think? Well, tingnan natin. As you can see, si 4 ay element naman yan. Si 4 ay nandyan sa union yan. Si 6, nariyan din sa union yan. But if you add 4 and 6, what's the sum? 10. Is 10 a multiple of 4? No. Is 10 a multiple of 6? No. So therefore 10 is not in the union. So as you can see, the union is not closed under addition. So the answer to this question is no. In general, while ang intersection ng dalawang subgroups is always a subgroup, ang union ng dalawang subgroup may not be a subgroup at all. So let's consider this. If G is a group and A is in J, let's consider the set C of A. Anong elements ng C of A? It consists of all elements X so that AX is equal to XA. If you can see, if you describe this in verbally or in words, we say that these are all the elements X that commutes with A. Remember, in general, operation of the group is not necessarily commutative. So, hindi mo i-expect na ito yung mangyayari. Right? Especially when the group is non-abelian. So, ang C of A, ang laman nito yung mga elements that commutes with A. So, imagine niyo na lang, ang laman nito yung mga friends na A, they commute with each other. We claim that this set, if we collect all those that commutes with A, we claim that this will form a subgroup of G. To do this, first, take note that AE is A and EE is also A. Therefore, AE is equal to EA. It means to say that E commutes with A, so E is in this set. Hence, C of A is not 0. Actually, my direction is to use the 3-step subgroup test. Next, I need to show closure. If I take two elements, X and Y, in this set, or if X and Y commutes with A, that's how we read it better. If X and Y commutes with A, okay, I need to show that XY will commute with A as well. So, I will multiply A with the product XY. Use associative property. Now, because A commutes with X, because X commutes with A, AX can be replaced by XA. Again, if I use associative property, I can move the parentheses over there. Now, because Y commutes with A, I can write AY as YA. Again, using associative property, I can move the parentheses over there. So in the end, I was able to show that XY will commute with A. I was able to put the entire XY from the right to the left. Therefore, as a conclusion, the product XY is an element or commutes with A. Finally, to make C of A a subgroup of G, we show that it's closed under inverses. So if X commutes with A, I need to show that X inverse commutes with A. So to do that, I need to multiply X inverse to the right of A, and then I need to show that this is equal to X inverse times A. So this is what we do. I will insert these factors. Now you know that A inverse A is just identity, so it's like nothing. it has no effect on the product at all. Because imagine niyo parang 1 lang yan. It doesn't do anything. Now look at this. By the shoes and socks property, I know that that's AX, or the inverse of AX. Take note of the order, ha? Shoes and socks, bumabaligtad yung order. And then, what do I do next? I know that X commutes with A. So I can write AX as XA. Now, applying the shoes and socks once again, I have this. Yung inverse ng XA magiging A inverse times X inverse, like so. Now, what is AA inverse? Yes, that's identity. So, you can just cancel it. Maiiwanan yung X inverse A, and we're done. We were able to prove that X inverse commutes with A. So, conclusion, X inverse is in C of A, or commutes with A. Therefore, C of A is a subgroup of G. Now, this particular subgroup actually is not a random example. It is a very important subgroup that we will consider later. For this, we call the set C of A, or the set of elements that commutes with A, as the centralizer of A. Okay? And of course, if G is abelian in the first place, it means that the operation is commutative, then everyone commutes with everyone else, then the centralizer of any element must be the entire group. And this is a trivial stuff. Okay? Let's consider this example. Remember that our, first example of a non-commutative group or finite group is this group from the previous lesson. Ito yung identity function on the set 1, 2, 3. No? Ito yung row 1, dinadala niya yung 1 to 2, and so, etc. 2 to 3, 3 to 1, and so on. Tapos ito naman yung mga nag-fix ng isang element. This fixes 1, interchanges 2 and 3, etc. So, if you want to know more about this group, you can go back to video number 1. Okay? Now, I've written here the entire Cayley table for your reference, so you don't have to worry recalling kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga to. As long as we know all the possible products, we're fine. But we know that this is a group of order 6. Now we want to know the centralizer of row 1. Now, how do we know the elements in the centralizer of row 1? Now, first of all, the identity is there because this is a subgroup. Okay? Okay. Now, what else? Of course, row 1 commutes with itself. Because row 1 times row 1 is equal to row 1 times row 1. How about row 2, for example? Does this commute with row 1? So what I do, no, if I have the table, what I do, I multiply row 2 times row 1. The product is the identity, right? Take note, row 2 times row 1 is the identity. How about row 1 times row 2? Again, row 1 times row 2, so the product is also the identity. As you can see, because you simply change the order. Pag kinuha mo yung row 2 times row 1, ang gagawin mo, i-reflect mo lang along the main diagonal. So if these two elements are the same, it means that the product commutes. So in other words, row 2 is in the centralizer of row 1. How about mu1? Is mu1 in the centralizer of row 1? So let's try. If I multiply row 1 and mu1 like this, the product is mu2. Now if I reflect it along the main diagonal, so this is the main diagonal, right? If I reflect this along the main diagonal, what do I get? Mu3. So as you can see, they are different. Ibig sabihin nun, yung row 1 times mu1 iba sa mu1 times row 1. Nakikita nyo? So, no, hindi mo ilalagay dito yung mu1. How about mu2? Multiply by row 1, ito yun. Reflect about the main diagonal, ito siya. Parehas ba? Hindi. So, again, mu2 is not in the centralizer of row 1. So, we will not write. Now, you can check that mu3 is also not an element of the centralizer. So, this is a subgroup of order 3, and this is the centralizer of row 1. How about the centralizer of mu1? Let's check one by one, of course. ID mu1. Now, na-check ko na kanina na ang mu1 ay hindi nagko-commute kay row 1. So, it will not work. Okay? Nagko-commute ba siya with row 2? Row 2, mu1. The product is mu2. Reflect along the main diagonal, mu3. So, no. How about mu2? How about mu2? Does this commute with mu1? Mu2, mu1. So, the product is row 2. Reflect along the main diagonal. Ito, row 1. No. So, no. Mu3. As you can see, mu3 will also not be will not commute with mu1, and therefore the centralizer of mu1 only has 2 elements. So this is a subgroup of order 2. Okay. Now we know that every element has their own centralizer, and we know that intersection of subgroups and centralizer are subgroups. Tapos we know that if we take intersection of subgroups, we know that that will also be a subgroup. If we take all the centralizers for each element, we get the subgroup, which is what we call as the center of the group. Basically, the elements of the center are those that commute with everybody. Not just on a single element, but on everyone else. If you commute with everyone else, just like the identity, then you are part of the center. Now, in this exercise, I want you to find the center of the group S3 using the previous table. Okay, and in the next lesson, I will teach you how to produce more examples of subgroups if you are given a particular group.